Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, as you can see on the screen, we're doing a sneak peeks for Gray. So I'm not going to do the generic type of videos where I just run through his stats and whatever else. I'll be going through all the best counters to Gray, and then also the brawlers which Gray counters himself. So the really good matchups for Gray. So before we get into that though, I'm going to be talking about quickly his gadgets and his star powers, the best kit for him to use. So we'll quickly jump into a training cave. And so to begin with, he's got two gadgets. So the first one is a walking cane. So basically it just pulls whoever of course he shoots towards him, I think by a couple of tiles. And then his other gadget, grand piano, he destroys a large terrain. It's absolutely insane. I'll show you in a second. And then both star powers ends. So fake injury, basically whenever Gray is full HP, the next attack is reduced by 25%, which isn't really the best. This one is probably going to be the better one. So basically whenever he uses his super, whenever he teleports, him and his allies will heal 1000. Well, whoever takes to teleport will gain 1000. So I'll quickly show you what it looks like in terms of the gadgets then, just so you get a good idea of which one would be better. So the first gadget is pretty interesting. I don't think this one is that great. It's probably only got good usages in Brawl then. So basically it just pulls a brawler towards you, which again, it is pretty decent in Brawl. You know, when you want to just get the ball off of someone, you could just pull them and get the ball away and try and defend a goal, or of course score a goal. But I think that, well, I know for sure the best one, probably I would honestly say, I don't want to be too optimistic, but I think this is the best gadget in the game by far. When the update does drop, this gadget is absolutely insane. Let's just say it straight away then. So you pop the gadget, you shoot, and wherever the shot lands, it just brings out a massive piano. It's absolutely insane. You can see it on the bots right here. It literally destroys like every single bot. That gadget is so OP. So yeah, let's jump into, well, actually before we jump into it, quickly in terms of the best build then. So I think new perspective is going to be the best star power for him. The grand piano gadget is going to be by far the best gadget for him. It destroys so much terrain, and then it's just dependent on the game mode, but normally speed and damage should be the better gears. Okay, so firstly we're going to be talking about the brawlers which Gray counters himself. So in terms of his best matchups, so the first one is going to be throwers. So to begin with, I thought throwers would have a decent matchup, and then I read his gadget, and his gadget is going to be absolutely insane. You can see in the gameplay, his gadget will literally break open way more terrain than a Griff gadget. So you could just imagine what free usages of his gadget is going to do to maps, especially in Brawl. So throwers are just going to get completely destroyed by Gray. Everything's going to be open. Throwers hate it when their own walls, of course, are broken. So yeah, Gray has to probably be the hardest counter to throwers I can possibly imagine in the game right now. Okay, so the next brawler in which Gray will have a really good matchup against, it has to be Rico. So again, another brawler which really thrives off of walls. That gadget's going to break up so much terrain. It's going to be really hard for Rico to find opportunities to bounce his shots against. So before we go into the next matchup, we've got a few really cool tips to get better at Gray basically when he's released. So the first one is going to be his super. So what you can do when you've already got a super used, you can actually, as soon as you obviously teleport, you can then just throw your super again. That's going to of course make it so you go even further, even quicker. It's going to be really hard for your opponents to actually deal damage, and then you'll be healing basically 2000 if you quickly chain those supers. So that is a really good thing to note straight away. And one thing to note as well is that if you auto aim your super, you will actually just go straight to the closest opponent. So that's one good thing to note, specifically when a brawler well, on your enemy team is really low. You don't need to aim it or try and be precise, just auto aim it and you'll just quickly zoom it into their faces. That's a really quick tip. And then next one is that of course with a gadget with walking piano, with grand piano, you just got to use it all the time. It's just going to break open the map so easily, because especially when you're trying to score in Brawl, it's going to make things a lot easier. Okay, so the next brawler in which Gray will have a really good matchup against, it has to be Poco. So again, Poco is another brawler which of course really relies on grass, but in grass a lot of walls as well. So I feel like Gray is going to counter Poco pretty well on some of the maps like Pinhole Punt, where he can literally use one gadget and it breaks open the entire grass. I just can't believe that if this makes it into the game, it is just going to be the most broken thing ever. Luckily it's the second gadget, so hopefully by then it is nerfed, but if it's not, I can really see Gray just being an absolute menace on the map. And yeah, it really counter those poker compositions, because again, if you break open the walls, it's going to be really hard for tanks to really push open I would say he hasn't got the most DPS, Gray, so gotta be a little bit careful of facing Pokemon in a 1v1, but over time he can definitely get some good chip damage in, and he actually does a surprisingly good amount of damage. Okay, so the next brawler in which Gray has a really good matchup against, it is Tara. So you've guessed it, again the Gadget's going to be able to break open this terrain so easily, and Tara suffers so much right now in the meta where there's a lot of Griff, there's a lot of roofs which break open the maps, so in turn you can just imagine how Gray's going to be a really good brawler against her in the lane, and specifically because Gray can also free shot Tara, so you can use that to your advantage. You know, if you get 2 taps on the Tara, if you got your super, you can easily just auto aim that super on top of her and just get the kill. The only problem you might have is the pets, but honestly Tara's pets haven't really been a problem for like over a year now, but it's so easy to take down, so I feel like Gray will have a fantastic matchup specifically down the lane against Tara. And lastly, for the last brawler which he's going to have a fantastic matchup against, it is going to be Stu. So there's a couple of reasons why. So one reason, of course, his Gadget again is going to be really easy to take down Stu's speed zone turret, specifically on some maps where you're going to get a lot of value out of it. This Gadget's going to be able to break the walls and the Gadget so easily, but also against the Stu, you really want to keep maximum distance as much as possible. Gray has a decent amount of range, so he can really keep his distance against Stu, break open walls, and not allow Stu to get his super very often. So that's why I feel like Gray's going to have a fantastic matchup against the Stu. So, you know, before the sneak peeks, I thought Gray wasn't going to be the best of brawlers, but I think he's going to be a fairly decent brawler, specifically with his super. So watch out for his supers. I feel like that's going to be a really good turning point in the fact that, you know, when there's a couple of brawlers that are like 1 or 2 shottable, you can easily teleport onto them, spam auto aim really quick, and you should be able to get the kill. Okay, so now moving on to the brawlers which counter Gray the best, starting off with Max. So of course Max is like the ultimate brawler against those sharpshooter brawlers, mainly because obviously it's so easy to maneuver around with Max and dodge those shots, but I feel like Gray's main shot attack is sometimes a little bit awkward to hit, but also pretty awkward to dodge. You can see that the line is really faint, and especially when there's a lot of things going on, sometimes it can be pretty hard to dodge Gray's shots. So that's why I feel like Max is going to be one of the best picks against Gray, just because of the super, just overall just wiggling in and out. You know that Max counters brawlers like Byron, like Piper, like Bell, etc. Those sharpshooters, and Gray is one of them, so you can already tell that Max is going to dominate this matchup. Okay, so the next best counter against Gray is going to be Bell. So you've guessed it, Bell is going to be better than Gray in those 1v1s, just mainly because of the outranges. So you know for sure with Gray, with his second Gadget, the map's going to open up a lot, right? He's going to counter a lot of other brawlers, but then if you're talking specific 1v1s, you know, in the mid in a lot of Brawl maps, or just in general, you know, like mid in Gem Grab, or even down the lane, Bell's going to have a much greater matchup basically, because that range is definitely a lot bigger. Although she does lack a little bit in the damage in a 1v1, you know, if you can keep your max range distance like good Bell players do, you know you're going to win that matchup pretty easily. Okay, so now moving into the next best counter for the Gray, it has to be Penny. So Penny, of course, is pretty decent against every single matchup, but the main reason why I put Penny as a good counter to a Gray, because they've basically got near enough the same range. I think Penny may lack a little bit of range in comparison to Gray, not 100% sure on that one, but you know, Penny can eventually get the turret. But the main reason why I put Penny down here is because of Gray's portals. So one thing about Gray, which you probably won't realize until you face off against him, is that he can actually be really aggressive with his portals, specifically when you're low in HP. But Penny has her salty barrels, which can really help her defensively. You know, if Gray wants to teleport, he can't, because Penny's just going to destroy him with that Gadget. So of course Penny's going to have a really good matchup against Gray. Okay, so next up with another brawler which counters Gray, I've gone with the Bee. So Bee, I feel like it's going to have a fantastic matchup against Gray. So again, Bee is going to outrange so many different brawlers in the game, but specifically in those 1v1s, you know, Gray is literally a sharpshooter but lacks the range. So of course Bee is going to be an obvious counter against them, but also she's got a honey pot which she can tank one extra shot, you know, in case Gray does decide to teleport onto her. But also, you know, if Bee has that 3k loaded, a lot of times you can just hold it, and then Gray can't teleport on top of you. So there's a couple of defensive measures which you can have with B, but also, again, as I mentioned, like B is just so good at long range. People don't realize that she's literally got one of the longest range inside of a game, so of course she's going to have a fantastic matchup against Gray. Okay, and lastly, going into the last brawler which should have a good matchup against Gray, it is Brock. So Brock, again, another long range brawler which opens up the map as well. The more the map is open, the better it suits Brock, and Brock right now is a really strong brawler within the meta, and I think he has a really good matchup against Gray. So of course he could be pretty boring and just go with some pretty aggro picks to counter Gray in a specific 1v1, but I feel like overall as the game goes on, those aggro brawlers won't really have the best matchup against Gray. I think Gray is going to be a really good synergy brawler, you know, breaking open the map, maybe having like a tank counter in the composition with him, and he's going to be a good brawler overall. So I feel like, you know, in literal terms, tanks, of course, as I said, will destroy him in a complete 1v1, but it's a 3v3 game, so you've got to take that into consideration. So I don't really feel like going in aggro brawler will be the best against Gray. So that's why I've gone with these other sharpshooters to have a decent matchup against him. Alright guys, it's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed this one. So as I said, I try and do my own niche to these sneak peeks. Let me know whether you like these types of videos. Want to kind of stay away from just the generic stuff and try and at least give you some guys some insight, because he's a free brawler through a quest, so literally everyone will be able to get him. So you want to know which his best matchups are, and also the brawlers you kind of want to stay away from. So as I mentioned, I've said it time and time again in a video, you probably heard me say it 100 times, but I just can't stress enough how broken this Gadget Grand Piano is going to be. Not only does it deal damage, but it just breaks open the entire map. You've seen on Pin a Hole Punt where it literally breaks open the whole entire mid. I just think that's a crazy concept. It's got to be emergency nerf before release, I'm pretty sure on it. But again, you know, both of these star powers are okay. I feel like this one's going to be a little bit better in case you want to just you know, get the kind of teleports going, you know. If you've already got one out and then you throw another one, that's 2000 HP healed instantly. So that is a pretty insane tip right there. So yeah, it's going to be it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.